It's fucking hitting the pipe, fucking eyes even more, fucking looking around. Not the old fucking crack addicted iguana. How many times have you seen this? Anyways, I didn't notice it. Oh, Jesus Christ. I think it climbed on top of my grill and made its way in. I didn't notice until I went to do the laundry, turned it on, and it suddenly sounded like a mariachi band was trapped in there. I love animals, but this is funny. I opened it up and the iguana shot out like a scaly torpedo. Luckily, wasn't in there. Dude, his fucking blood temperature probably shot through the fucking roof. Like, hey! I'm feeling a little bit chilly. Think I'll go in there? It's fucking amazing. Why didn't you take a picture of this? This is fucking fantastic. Come on, he didn't die. This is like watching a human fall off a bicycle. It's funny. Come on, he can still talk. I opened it up and the iguana shot out like a scaly torpedo. Luckily, wasn't in there long, so it didn't have a chance to heat up. Just a couple of tumbles. Dude, I had friends of mine, they used to put their cat in a pillowcase and they'd swing him around like that. You could do this in the 70s. There was no one there to document it. Yeah, they used to torture their cat. They would put it in the dryer. They would do experiments to see how they could get it to not like fucking land on its feet. They would like tie up its fucking tail to its back and like second floor, they would drop it out. It's just fucking, I didn't see it happen, so it's funny to hear about it. I'm just doing this because I know you like animals. All right, sorry. He was only in there for a couple of tumbles. Rated PG, abuse of an iguana. I'm thinking, thank God I wasn't washing sneakers or that racket would have sounded normal and I wouldn't have checked. Good point. Our dryer is old but heats up a lot. Routinely shrinks clothes. It might have killed it. I know lizards like heat, but this might have been a little well done by the end of it. We got the neighbor to come by and get this scared thing out of here. To comfort the guy, my girlfriend said that we'll put a screen over the vent so he couldn't do it again. I know she's being nice, but do I really have to lizard-proof my house now? I say if you own a lizard the size of a dachshund, you got to be the first and last stop to making sure it doesn't wander into the 20th century. What do you say, Bill? I mean, I think it all depends on how much you give a fuck about that iguana. You know, I will say you need to talk to your girlfriend if it's speaking out of turn. Saying, we'll put a screen up. You know, she's speaking for your time there. You know, that's when you got to be like, what the shut the fuck up and walk to the car. I'm watching March Madness. I'm not putting up a fucking iguana screen. All right, the last time. All right, last one here. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. I really appreciate it. And for listening to the podcast and all that. All right? No. This is a good time. The time I almost flew an airplane. Oh, shit. All right. Dear Billy Burley, in case you couldn't figure it out from the subject line, this is the completely and totally true tale of when I accidentally flew a plane. Back in 2010, I did a college semester, I get the hiccups, with National Outdoor Leadership School in Western Australia. All right, now it tracks. At first, I was like, how the fuck could anybody get into that position? And then you're like, I was in Australia. All right, I get it. Totally understand it. If you don't, go to Australia during Australia Day. I recommend Perth. And then you will totally understand how somebody could end up in this situation. It was a 3-month backcountry expedition, all tracks, consisting of a 110-mile canoe trip down the Drysdale River, then a 90-mile or so hike to a cattle station where we would then be picked up by an all-terrain bus. Oh my, dude, the most poisonous reptiles in the fucking world live in their badlands, all in the middle. This is the level of balls. This is like such a white person thing to do. Just like, you know, your whole house smells like a candle store. It's just too fucking tranquil. You just have to go out and find fucking danger. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go walk amongst taipans. You know, I thought you guys wanted to be a little more worldly. All right, it was a 3-month backcountry expedition consisting of a 110-mile canoe trip. I already did all that part. On the bus, somehow I managed to, while on this bus trip, I somehow managed to ball tap myself with my dick. But that's a different story. Yeah, it is. It is. And it's for a different podcast. I already did the MeUndies read. I don't need this. And driven to the coast where we lived with Aborigines of the Bardi tribe for 3 weeks. Dude, are you like running from the law? What is this? But first we had to get to the fucking river. So after a day's prep and packing, we head to the Brome airport and loaded up a flock of 6-seater airplanes. Somehow I ended up being in the co-pilot seat when one of these planes were about to take off. Being an adventurous college kid, I was psyched to be the co-pilot seat. However, I quickly noticed how old this particular bird was. She had a pair of push-button cigarette lighters in the dash, an ashtray, and fucking duct tape. It wasn't speed tape wrapped around the strut connection to the wing. Yeah, I'm gonna say the FAA is probably not out in this part of the world checking up on these fucking planes. That's like in fucking Australia. They just fly those helicopters like cowboys, crashing them all the fucking times. They're out of their minds. You're supposed to bring them in every 50 hours. We're all like, fuck that, mate. They herd cattle with them. Just fucking yanking the guts out of them. That's a tip for you. Don't ever buy a used helicopter from New Zealand. You have a better chance with a Jaguar. The first 30 minutes or so were pretty standard. Flying besides realizing I'm in an almost antique airplane. Once we pass the last bit of civilization I'll see for months, the pilot takes out this clipboard and started checking off the flight checklist, which personally I feel should have been done before we were in the air, but just my thought though. Maybe it's some sort of in-flight check once you get, I don't know, that's scary. Oh my God. While he's alive, he's writing this. There's no reason to be nervous, okay? While he's doing this, not paying attention to the controls or the gauges or anything else besides the checklist, while the plane decides to nosedive towards planet Earth while the pilot was otherwise distracted. Bill, my bald-headed brethren, this little-ass plane felt like it went up in just a bit and then it took a nosedive and it pointed at the fucking ground. I've seen a few movies and reacted without thought. I grabbed the controls and pulled the fuck up. Did it work? I have no idea. I know you do something else with your feet. I don't fly planes. The pilot reacted in a similar fashion, throwing the clipboard aside and grabbing the controls. Well, the plane leveled out in a few terrifying seconds and we started climbing back to our cruising elevation. Just as I was about to apologize for touching the controls or fucking anything up, the pilot looks at me and goes, "Oi, thanks, mate." And that's the true story of when I accidentally flew a plane. Thanks and go fuck yourself, you cunt. Jesus Christ. Before I wrap it up, there's a video that scared the fucking shit out of me. Now, like I said, I don't fly planes, I fly helicopters. So however the physics works, if something's turning this way, it wants to turn you the other way. So what happens is if the main rotor turns clockwise, it wants to turn you counterclockwise. And that's what the tail rotor's for. It changes your attack. It bites in so it keeps your nose forward. So I guess with the prop plane, it's the same thing. If this thing's turning, it wants to turn the fucking plane, but whatever you're doing with your feet stops from doing it. So this student pilot was coming in for a fucking landing, and for 1 second they didn't do it. They were like coming into the runway, and you're like on the camera behind them, and the fucking plane just did like a 360 spin before he stopped. He was like flying on like this, and all of a sudden the plane goes like that, and he just goes, whoa. And plane pilots always tell me, like, what fixed wing always, and I understand what they're saying, but whenever I see that, I go like, I don't know, man. It seems like, you got a little sciatic nerve and your fucking foot falls asleep. Well, I mean, if that happened at night, you don't have an instrument rating, there's no moon, you don't even know whatever. It's fucking scary shit. All right, let's not get into the nerd shit about this. All right, before I get out of here, people, this was fucking amazing. I want to thank all you guys for coming out here. I really had a great time. And if you enjoyed this, Andrew, we're going to start doing these a little more often. I got a lot out of this. I hope you guys had a great time. Thanks to everybody here at South by Southwest. Thank you to Ship Ahoy, Green Guy, whatever the fuck these dudes are. I got Ship Station for financing most of this stuff. I really appreciate it. And thank you to Austin for always being an awesome comedy town. And thank you for all you guys listening to my dumb jokes. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time. Good night.
My name is David Reeves. I'm 43, and 3 years ago, my wife slid divorce papers across a table to me at her doctorate ceremony. Right there, in front of hundreds of clapping strangers celebrating her win. The win I bankrolled with every cent I had. 11 years earlier, Claire decided that being a shop owner's spouse wasn't enough for her. She wanted a doctorate in psychology, human behavior, social systems. I backed her completely. Took a home equity loan, sold my thriving hardware store to pay for it. For 6 years, she lived 2 states away, visited maybe once a season. I raised Tyler, my 16-year-old son from my first marriage, almost entirely by myself. Wired her money without fail. Year 4, doctors found early hypertension complications. Manageable, they said. I never mentioned it. She had oral defenses coming up. Didn't want to burden her. The ceremony seemed flawless on the surface. Tyler and I drove 6 hours, matching new blazers. He carried white lilies because Claire always called white elegant. We sat near the back, waiting to congratulate Dr. Claire Reeves. When they announced her name, the whole hall erupted. She glowed in that black gown, beaming like she had at our engagement party. Shook the provost's hand, smiled for cameras, then walked directly toward us. I stood, arms open to embrace her. Tyler rose too, lilies in hand. She brushed right past him, stopped in front of me, reached into her gown, pulled out a sealed folder. Her expression was flat, resolute. David, you need to take this. I opened it right there. Divorce documents, printed, notarized, dated that same morning. She had orchestrated this, timed the end of us to coincide with her own new start. I need room to grow, she said, tone like a courtroom ruling. This part of my life is finished. I'm moving toward what's next. Without you. Tyler's fingers dug into my shoulder. The flowers slipped from his hand. Nearby conversation stopped. I stared down at those pages. 6 years of going without. 11 years of marriage compressed into clauses and blank signature lines. My hands stayed perfectly still. I just felt frozen, like December had settled directly into my ribs. This was planned, I asked. It was, she said. She glanced toward her circle, junior faculty already lifting phones for congratulatory shots. One man, Aaron, someone I'd shaken hands with once, watched us with barely concealed curiosity. It's simpler this way. Simpler. I took out my pen, the one Tyler had given me for my birthday. Signed both sets right there in the back row. Handed her one, kept the other. Come on, I told Tyler. We left while they kept calling names, while Claire's friends uncorked bottles in the hallway, while the woman I'd built an entire existence around toasted to that existence's ending with people who barely knew me. Tyler didn't speak until we got to the parking lot. "Dad, are you all right?" I looked at him, this boy I'd basically raised on my own while pushing my own health into the ground, and something shifted inside me. I was exhausted, bone-deep exhausted, worn thin from being the structure everyone leaned on while nobody noticed I was there. I told him. We drove home without another word. But that wasn't the finish line. It was only where my vanishing began. I didn't return home that night or the night after. Tyler and I checked into a roadside inn 30 miles out of town. The kind of place that takes cash and stays quiet. We sat on those thin mattresses, staring at a muted TV screen. "Dad," Tyler finally said close to midnight. "What's the plan?" Fair question. I checked my phone, saw the 3 texts Claire had already sent. First, "We need to talk soon." Then, "Don't make this into a scene." Then, "David, we're grown-ups. Let's be civil about this." 3 texts. After 11 years of marriage, after handing me divorce papers before a packed auditorium, she figured 3 texts settled it. I power my phone off. "We're going," I told Tyler. "Going where?" "Away from all of it." He looked at me like I'd cracked. Maybe I had, but something had broken open in that hall. Something core. I'd spent 6 years fading into the background, functioning as the checkbook behind someone else's ambitions. I was finished being a footnote inside Claire's success story. We stayed 3 nights in that motel while I made arrangements. First call went to my business partner, Sam. Told him I was ready to sell my last shop. He'd been asking to buy me out for a year and a half. Second call went to the bank. Moved every dollar from our shared account into my personal one. Legally justified. I'd been the sole depositor for 6 straight years. Left her the retirement fund. Figured that was fair enough. Third call was the toughest. My attorney, Marcus, a friend since our teenage years. Told him about the papers, asked what came next. He went quiet for a beat. "Dave, you actually signed them?" "Yeah." "Then you're clear. She can't dispute what she started and you agreed to. The property split's already spelled out, and from what you're describing, you walk free." Free? Different word, same weight. On the 4th day, I picked up a prepaid phone, new number, new plan, wiped every social account I had, which wasn't much. Shut down my email, scrubbed myself from anything that could be traced. Back then, disappearing took effort, but it wasn't impossible if you were careful. Tyler watched all of it in silence. Finally, on day 5, he asked, "Where are we headed?" I've been turning that over. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere nobody's heard of us. Somewhere I can breathe without someone else's expectations sitting on my chest. I remembered a camping trip from years back, a small town called Maple Bend. Under 4,000 people, built along a river and a boat launch. Peaceful, unknown. Better than here, I told him. He nodded slowly. School, though? What happens with that? Towns have schools everywhere, kid. You'll graduate. I promise you that. We packed the truck with what mattered, clothes, photo albums, Tyler's football gear, and left everything else behind. The furniture, the decor, the whole life that turned out to be nothing but a movie set. I left the house key on the counter. No note. What would I even write? Thanks for the memories. Hope the new chapter's great? None of it would have been true. Claire texted once more that night. "David, come on, we're adults about this." I deleted it. Drove north with Tyler asleep beside me. The divorce papers folded in the glove box. By the time Claire understood I wasn't coming home, we were 3 states gone. And I had already started turning into somebody she'd never track down. Because nobody warns you about vanishing. The world doesn't stop. It just gets quieter. And sometimes quiet is the only truthful reply to betrayal. Maple Bend looked exactly as I remembered. A small boat launch curved into the river, a main strip with about a dozen shops, a population that swelled to 4,000 each summer. The kind of place where everybody knew everybody, meaning nobody knew us. We rented a cabin at the edge of town, 2 bedrooms, furnished month to month. The landlord, an old-timer named Gus, didn't ask a single question when I paid 3 months in advance cash. Just passed over the keys and mentioned the river was running well this season. Tyler started his senior year at Maple Bend High. Small school, solid sports program. The coach watched him throw a football once and offered him a roster spot on the spot. First time in months, I saw him grin. I spent the opening week just breathing, wandering the riverbank, sitting on the dock, letting the quiet soak into me. No calls about stock counts. No late-night crises. No expectations. Just stillness. The boat launch owner, a man named Pete, was clearly struggling. I could tell from 50 feet away. Boats needing repairs, docks falling apart, an operation held together with tape and hope. I walked over on day 8, introduced myself as Dave. Here to fish or here for work? Pete asked, not glancing up from his clipboard. Work. I'm handy, no tools, no repairs. He finally looked up, studied me a long moment. You're running from something. Yeah, I said plainly. Rough marriage, rougher ending. Just want someplace quiet to start over. Pete nodded slowly. Pays modest. Cash off the books until we see how it goes. Works for me. I started the next morning, fixing engines, patching docks, helping weekend anglers load their trucks. Physical labor, the kind that wears out your back but clears out your mind. Pete was a decent boss. Didn't hover, didn't dig. Just pointed me toward the work. 3 weeks in, I noticed the books were a mess. Brought it up casually over coffee. Pete laughed bitterly. Yeah, well, I know boats, not spreadsheets. Been losing money 2 years running. Might have to sell before next summer. Mind if I take a look, I asked. Ran 2 shops before this. Might catch something. He slid the ledger over. Go for it. Took me 3 days, working slow afternoons. The issues were obvious. Undercharging, overspending, no real inventory system, but the spot was great and the regulars were loyal. This place could turn a profit with the right structure. Pete, I said one Friday evening, what if I bought in? Became a partner, split it. I've got the money and the business background. You've got the know-how and the trust of everyone here. He stared at me. You mean that? Completely. This place has real potential. It just needs someone who understands the numbers. We shook on it that same night. By fall, I held a 40% stake in Maple Bend Boat Launch. By winter, we posted our first profit in 3 years. And somewhere along the way, I realized I hadn't thought about Claire in weeks. My old phone sat in a drawer, still off. Sometimes I'd take it out, watch the unread count climb, 50, then 80, then past 100. Never opened one. Didn't need to. The silence wasn't punishment. It was relief. And I was finally understanding what that felt like. By spring, the boat launch was booming. We added rental services, started guided fishing trips. Pete ran the water side, I handled everything else. It worked because we trusted each other's lane. Tyler was thriving too, made varsity, kept his grades up, started seeing a girl from his English class named Grace. Watching him laugh over dinner about ordinary teenage stuff reminded me exactly why I'd left. He'd been shouldering my stress for years. Now he was just a kid. My health steadied too. Regular sleep, a real diet, less pressure. My numbers came down close to normal. The town doctor, an older man named Wilder, nodded approvingly at my checkup. Whatever you're doing, he said, keep at it. You've bought yourself years. Years I'd have burned away grinding for someone who treated me like a bill to pay. One afternoon that April, a man walked into the launch office. Late 50s, sun-worn, easy confidence, introduced himself as Ray Dobbins, ran a construction firm 2 towns south. Heard you turned this place around, Ray said, eyeing the tidy office and the rebuilt docks. Pete was nearly done for before you got here. Just applied basic fundamentals, I said. Nothing groundbreaking. Still, that's rare. He handed me a card. Building a mixed-use development on the east side. Need someone who understands both business and hands-on work. Interested in consulting? I looked at that card. Half a year earlier, I'd have declined without a thought. Too scared to take a chance. Now? Tell me more, I said. The consulting started small, evenings and weekends going over blueprints and vendor contracts. But Ray was sharp enough to actually take my advice. Within 2 months, he offered me a full-time role as project lead. I can't abandon Pete, I told him. Then don't, he said. Bring on a manager for daily operations. This project's 2 years out. You'll earn enough to buy Pete out entirely, if that's what you want. I slept on it one night, said yes the next morning. By summer, I was overseeing a multi-million-dollar build, still held my stake in a thriving boat launch, and had more saved than I ever had during my marriage. Tyler landed a partial scholarship offer from a state school. Life was falling into place. That's when the first sign came that Claire was searching. An old acquaintance, a guy named Tom, messaged Pete's business page asking if anyone knew a Dave Reeves. Pete showed me, asked if he should reply. No, I said. Just delete it. He did, no argument. But I understood what it meant. She'd stopped texting the dead phone. Now she was actively hunting. Probably hired someone. The thought didn't rattle me. It just wore me out. I'd built something here. Something real. Something mine. And I wasn't going to let her tear it apart just because she'd finally grasped what she'd given up. 2 years in, I bought Pete out fully. He wanted to retire down south, be near his grandkids, and I had the funds. The boat launch was entirely mine now, profitable, growing. The consulting work with Ray had turned into a full partnership across 3 separate projects. My savings held numbers I never expected to see. Tyler wrapped his freshman year with a strong GPA and a starting spot on his team. He called every weekend, talked about classes, games, and a girl named Nora he kept bringing up. He sounded content. Free. That's what money never bought me, but leaving did. Freedom from carrying someone else's dreams until it crushed you flat. I'd made real friends in Maple Bend. Ray and his wife hosted cookouts. Pete, even retired, still dropped by weekly just to talk. The guys at the hardware store knew my order by heart. I finally belonged somewhere. My health kept improving. Dr. Wilder mentioned cutting back my prescriptions. You're in better shape at 45 than most men at 30, he told me at my checkup. Whatever changed in your life, it saved you. I thought back to that drive from the motel, Tyler quiet beside me. Both of us fleeing a woman who'd made me feel invisible. Those changes had genuinely saved me. Then Tom, the old friend, showed up at the launch one Tuesday, looking uneasy. Dave, he said, we need to talk. I leaned back. How'd you find me? Claire hired a PI. She's been searching over a year, and I'm here because she paid me to confirm where you are. He looked ashamed. Said she just wanted closure, needed to talk. Offered me $2,000 to verify it. Something cold settled in my chest. Not anger, not panic. Just weariness. You take it?
Not yet.
Wanted to warn you first.
Dave, she's changed.
Lost her position at the institute. Something about falsified research. Her social media's dead silent. I think she's desperate. Not my problem, I said. She's your wife, man. Ex-wife. Signed 3 years back. She made her choice at that ceremony. I stood. Take the money. Tell her exactly where to find me. But Tom, when she shows up, and she will, I'm not the man who walked out of that hall anymore. She's going to learn that the hard way. He left without taking the cash. Told me later he couldn't bring himself to. But the damage was already done. She knew where I was. I called Marcus. Warned him what was coming. He pulled the divorce file. Confirmed it was airtight. No gaps. She can't touch anything you've built since the split, he said. Everything since is legally yours. Good, I said. Because she's getting nothing from me. Tyler called that night. Dad, Claire messaged me on Instagram. Wants to know where you are, says she needs to apologize. What did you say? Blocked her. But Dad, she sounded desperate. Like crying in voicemails desperate. That's not yours to carry, son. She made her choices. Now she's living with them. I know. Just figured you should hear it. After we hung up, I sat on the porch, overlooking the river. Calm water, mirror still. I'd built this from nothing, turned heartbreak into a business, betrayal into a foundation. Claire could come looking, could show up at my door, but the man she handed those papers to was gone. And the man who took his place didn't need her apology. Claire arrived 3 weeks later, a Thursday morning. I was in the office when a rental pulled into the lot. I knew before she even stepped out, the way she hesitated, gathering nerve. She looked thinner, tired. The confidence she'd worn like a shield at graduation had worn away completely. She walked toward the office in plain jeans, no polished academic look, just a woman who'd lost something and finally understood it. I stepped outside before she reached the door.
Claire.
She stopped, eyes scanning my face. David, you look well. I am well.
Can we talk?
We are talking. She flinched. Can we go inside, privately?
No.
Say it right here. People were watching now. Ray had just pulled up for a morning meeting. A couple of regulars paused their gear. Let them watch. I had nothing to hide. I made a mistake, Claire said, voice trembling. A massive mistake. Shouldn't have done it that way at graduation. I got swept up thinking it was freedom. But I was wrong. Okay, I said flat. That's it? That's all you've got?
What do you want from me?
You handed me divorce papers at your own graduation 3 years back. I signed them. I left. You got exactly what you asked for. I didn't want this to happen this way, her voice rose. I didn't want to lose my career, my name, everything I built. There was no regret about me. Only regret about the fallout. What happened at the Institute? I asked, staying level. She looked away. There were allegations about my research. Nothing confirmed, but enough doubt that they let me go. And Aaron, he was seeing someone else the whole time. I thought we had something real, but I was just convenient. Aaron, the colleague who'd watched us at graduation with too much interest. Of course. I've been trying to reach you for a year, she continued. Messages, emails, I even messaged Tyler. You ignored all of it. Every message came through, I said calmly. Just never open them. Her face dropped. You saw them and didn't even read them?
Didn't need to.
You said everything that mattered at graduation. The rest was just noise. David, please. I know I hurt you, but 11 years has to mean something. It meant everything, I said, right up until you handed me those papers and laughed with your friends while I walked out. You got your space to grow, Claire. Hope it was worth it. Ray cleared his throat behind me. Dave, we've got that meeting. Be right there. I looked at Claire one final time. You need to go. This is private property. I came all this way. Not my concern. You want closure? Here it is. We're finished.
We've been finished.
And whatever's caught up to you now, I'm not your fix. Find your own way through it. I walked past her into the office. Through the window, I watched her stand there 5 minutes, maybe waiting for me to come back out. I didn't. Eventually she got in the car and left. Ray whistled low. That was cold, man. That was necessary, I said. Let's talk about the Riverside project. We worked through the morning like nothing had happened because for me, nothing had. My life was here now, built on ground she'd never touched, and I intended to keep it that way. Claire didn't quit. 2 days after our confrontation, legal papers arrived. She was suing for half the boat launch's value, claiming it was funded with marital assets. Her lawyer argued the withdrawn account money had served as startup capital, entitling her to a cut. Marcus reviewed the filing and laughed. She's desperate. This won't stand. You pulled money you deposited from businesses you owned before the marriage. The divorce closed 3 years ago with clean asset division. She signed off on everything. So we fight it, we crush it. And Dave, I think it's time to tell your side. She's been painting you as the villain. People deserve the truth. I considered that. Staying quiet had been protective, strategic. But maybe silence had done its job. Tyler called that evening. Dad, Claire's posting about you again. Says you're hiding money you owe her for backing your business. It's all over her page. Her account, dark for months, had suddenly come alive, rewriting history in real time. Screenshot everything I told Tyler. We're going to need it. The next morning I did something I'd avoided 3 years straight.
Made a new account.
Posted one thing, a photo of the divorce papers she'd handed me at graduation, captioned simply, she handed me these at her own graduation while her friends celebrated. I signed them, walked away, and rebuilt. Now she wants half of what I built without her. The truth matters. Within hours it spread. People from our old life started commenting, sharing their own memories of me working multiple jobs while she was away. Former neighbors described watching me grind while she was gone. Tyler shared a post about watching his father get humiliated publicly. Claire's version fell apart under real accounts from people who'd actually been there. Tom posted about me selling my thriving store to fund her education. Ray posted about finding me rebuilding at the boat launch from scratch. Pete shared how I'd saved his business and treated everyone right. The community I'd built stood up for me without being asked. That meant more than any court ruling ever could. Claire tried responding, posted about nuance and context, but it was too late. People saw through it. Comments on her page turned harsh. You handed him divorce papers at your own ceremony. You're suing him for money he made after you left. This is exactly why people don't trust you. She wiped everything within a day. But the internet keeps receipts. Screenshots last forever. Marcus called that afternoon. Her lawyer just called. They're dropping the suit. Think the public backlash scared them off.
Good, I said.
Send her our legal bill. You sure? Might look harsh. She tried taking what I built from nothing. I'm sure. That evening, on my porch watching the sunset over the river, something settled in me.
Not closure exactly.
More like completion. I defended myself without turning cruel, told the truth without exaggeration, and the people who mattered had stood by me. Summer arrived with unexpected attention. The local paper ran a piece on the boat launch's turnaround, from failing dock to thriving business. They interviewed Pete, Ray, employees. Everyone talked about my work ethic, my honesty, how I'd invested in the town. The article briefly noted I'd rebuilt after a difficult divorce. Didn't name Claire, didn't dig into details. Just acknowledged I'd started fresh and made it work. The mayor's office called that July. Maple Bend was holding its annual business awards, and I'd been nominated for community impact. The ceremony that August drew maybe 150 people, a small town affair, but it meant something. Recognition that I mattered, that I belonged. Tyler came home for it, brought Grace along. Watching them together, seeing him happy and sure of himself, reminded me exactly why all this had been worth it. I'd broken the pattern, shown him you could walk away from something toxic and build something better. The ceremony was held at the community hall. Ray and his wife were there, Pete and half the launch crew, neighbors, regulars, people who'd come to know me. Diane from the manufacturing plant even drove in, said she'd heard about the award, and wanted to show support. When they called my name, the applause felt genuine. I walked up, took the plaque, looked out at faces that had become my family. 3 years ago, I said, I arrived here with nothing but a truck and a need to start fresh. This town gave me the chance to rebuild, to prove endings can become beginnings. This award isn't only mine. It belongs to everyone who believes in second chances. Thank you. A short speech, honest words. The applause after felt like belonging. At the reception, an older woman approached, polished, likely mid-60s, sharp gaze. Mr. Reeves. I'm Diane Foster. I've followed your story, the business turnaround, the personal comeback. I run a foundation helping people rebuild after major upheaval. Would you ever consider sharing your experience? Workshops, maybe some interviews. There are a lot of men going through the same thing. Your story could show them a way forward. I thought about the messages I'd gotten after posting those divorce papers. Men thanking me for speaking out, sharing their own stories of feeling erased. Maybe there was something worth doing there. Let me think it over, I said. She passed me a card. No pressure, but the offer's open. Driving home that night, Tyler beside me like old times, I felt something I hadn't in years.
Pride.
Not the empty pride of achieving something for someone else's benefit, but genuine pride in what I'd built with my own choices. Dad, Tyler said, I'm proud of you. Wanted you to know that. Thanks, son. That means a lot. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I saw the piece about your award. Congratulations. You deserved better than what I gave you.
I'm sorry. See.
I showed Tyler. He shook his head. Going to answer? I deleted it. No point. That chapter shut. And it finally was completely. Diane's foundation offer grew into something bigger than expected. Started with one workshop for divorced men, 15 guys in a community room talking about starting over. I told my story honestly, the sacrifices, the public humiliation, the choice to walk away and rebuild.
The response floored me.
Men came up afterward shaking my hand, some tearing up. I thought leaving made me weak, they kept saying. Walking away takes more strength than staying sometimes, I told them. Knowing when to go is wisdom, not weakness. Diane asked me to do more sessions, then interviews. My story resonated because it wasn't about getting even. It was about getting yourself back. The boat launch kept growing. Ray and I finished the Riverside project, which brought in real profit. I was closing in on a net worth I never imagined while married to Claire. Tyler graduated with honors, got drafted into a minor league system. Watching him sign that contract reminded me why I'd made the choices I did. He'd watched his father refuse to stay a doormat. That lesson would stick with him for life. One evening, I got an email from a stranger named Michael in Vermont. He'd heard my interview, felt every word. Married 14 years. Put his wife through law school. She filed the day she made partner. He'd been drowning in resentment until he heard me talk about choosing peace over revenge. Your story gave me permission to leave with my head up, he wrote. I'm starting over at 46, and for the first time in years, I feel hopeful. I sat with that a long while. 3 years earlier, I'd been the guy driving away from graduation with divorce papers in my pocket. Now I was helping other men navigate that same darkness. Pain had turned into purpose.
Pete called that night.
Dave, you seen the news? Claire's old colleague Aaron just got fired. Ethics violations, inappropriate relationships with students. Karma's finally showing up. Aaron, who'd watched our marriage collapse with far too much interest, who'd probably been involved with Claire before the split, now facing his own reckoning. Good, I said simply. People who use others eventually get used too. I thought about writing a book, not about Claire specifically, but about the road from ruin to rebuilding. Something that could help the next man handed divorce papers at his wife's moment of triumph. The river stayed still that night, mirroring the stars. I'd found something here beyond business success. I found myself again, the version that existed before I learned to shrink, so someone else could expand. And that version wasn't shrinking ever again. 14 months later, I got a call from a lawyer. This is Sarah Kim from Whitfield and Partners. I'm handling the estate for Claire Reeves. Ms. Reeves passed last week. Car accident. The floor dropped out from under me. Claire was gone. There's a letter she left instructions to send you. It arrived 3 days later. I sat on the porch at sunset, envelope in hand, unsure if I wanted to open it. Finally, I did. David, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I need you to know something. You were right about all of it. I used you. Took your sacrifices for granted, discarded you the moment I didn't need you anymore. Losing everything turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me. Only at the bottom did I understand what I'd wrecked. You gave me 6 years of unconditional support, and I paid you back with public humiliation. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm only asking you remember there was a time I loved you, before I loved the idea of myself more. That girl who married you is real. I just lost her along the way. You built something beautiful from the wreckage. I followed your workshops, heard about you helping people heal. That's who you always were. Someone who builds while I destroy. Thank you for everything, even though I never earned it. And thank you for walking away when I needed to face what I'd done. Live well, David. You earned it.
Claire.
I read it twice, then folded it away. Felt a sting behind my eyes but didn't cry. This wasn't grief over losing her. It was grief for what might have been. Tyler called that night. Told him about Claire. You okay, Dad? Yeah, son. I let go of that relationship years ago. This is just the paperwork catching up. Going to the funeral?
No.
That's for people still in her life. 11 months later, life looked nothing like it had during my marriage. The boat launch brought steady income. I was running workshops and consulting full-time. Tyler was playing in the minors, engaged to Grace. I'd started seeing Emily, a widow who ran a bookshop in town. Nothing serious yet, just good company. On the 3rd anniversary of that graduation ceremony, I drove out to the river alone, brought the divorce papers I'd kept filed away all this time, sat on the dock, and thought back to that moment in the auditorium. The shock, the humiliation, the choice to walk away instead of fighting to keep someone who never wanted to stay. I tore those papers slowly into pieces and let them scatter across the water. Watched them drift, dissolve, become part of something larger. My phone buzzed. Tyler, a photo of him and Grace at practice. Caption: Hope you're having a good one, Pops. Love you. I smiled, texted back, "Love you too, son." Life was good. Finally, completely good. Not because Claire was gone, not because of the success, but because I'd learned the most important lesson on that graduation day. Sometimes the strongest move you can make is signing the papers and walking away. Building something new from nothing. Refusing to let bitterness poison what you're creating. The sun dropped over Maple Bend, painting the sky in colors that looked like hope. I sat there until dark, at peace with everything that had happened and everything still coming. This was my life now, built on my own terms, surrounded by people who valued me, defined by strength instead of sacrifice. And I was never giving that up again.